People say, what's the one profession you can have where you can always be wrong and still have a job? And of course, their punchline is a meteorologist. I chuckle.
Hello, friends. This is James Spann. It's time to read some mean tweets. And thanks to all of you for sending in the mean tweets. I really appreciate them from my heart. Out here in Trustful, we have some unhappy kids eating their milk sandwiches. Oh yeah, the memes are good. That face when you shut down the entire state for rain. Even the trolls, I love them. Sometimes it probably crosses the line, but to me, when people engage with me, even if it's bad, they came to me. I'm honored. Think of all the weather people in the world are here, and they came to me. So it's a high honor. So even for the haters, I'm glad they're there.
Here's your late afternoon update on Hurricane Irma, still a Category 5 storm that has moved across the... If I post something to YouTube today, it'll get a few hundred views. If I post something to YouTube on an active weather day, it'll get a few thousand views. But even for Irma, when it was days away from hitting the U.S., one day it got like 20,000 views, the next day it was 50,000, and I was like, wow, that's really something. So the third day, I recorded, went home, woke up the next morning, I got a call from one of my coworkers and saying, did you know you're the best weatherman ever? I was confused. He's like, yeah, you're trending on Reddit. My response was, what's Reddit? And literally it went viral. Some people said that it wasn't anything special. And for me as a meteorologist, it wasn't. It's what I do every day. If I remove myself from it, it was fascinating that a scientist made a presentation that went viral because people wanted to learn and see. And again, it is a projection.
I had a very bad habit in first grade of staring out the window all day. My first grade teacher, her name was Edna Earl Porterfield. And that woman was mean. She was about 99 years old, and she had the upper body strength of a linebacker. One day, Miss Porterfield just blew her top. She said, Spann, get out here now! And I'm thinking, uh-oh. But we got out in the hall, and it was totally an unexpected situation. I saw this woman do something I've never seen her do before. She smiled. And then she gave me something, and I'm thinking, we're really in the weird zone now. It was a book from the library, and it was a book about clouds. And she thought I was interested in weather because I stared out the window all the time. And that little book I read in first grade, I wish I could find a copy of that, started me on this road to learning about weather.
I always had a simmering interest in weather. As a kid, I think everybody does. In third grade, my teacher, Miss Costello, she took the class out and we laid in the grass and we looked up at the clouds and we were trying to figure out what shapes they look like. So it was just a fun, artsy project. But as we were doing that, in my mind, I was thinking, how is it possible those clouds can float? Because they're made of water, water's heavy, yet they float, they disappear, they can move over someone's house, drop an inch of rain, and then an hour later, they're gone. And to me, and even to this day, it's still amazing. I know the science, it's chemistry, it's H2O versus O2 and nitrogen and all that stuff. But intuitively, it doesn't make sense that clouds float, but they do.
When ABC 3340 formed, it was in 1996, and they gave me freedom to go on the air anytime I wanted to. I had full freedom. And that was a new concept. Understand, everybody here, you'd go on and go off, go on and go off. In 98, a couple of years after we were on the air, we had a horrible, horrible EF5 tornado. And we stayed on the air all night that night without going back to programming. First time that's ever happened here.
Okay, Mark, that would be Oak Grove High School and Lock 17 Road. That's the area out here in western Jefferson County. The tornado was past Oak Grove, and since we've had reports of damage at Oak Grove High School, Lock 17 out in this area, that means this thing is on the ground. And as it approaches that site, yeah, we had a power failure. Did you guys see that? Look at the lights down there go off.
And it defined our little TV station. We grew up that night. The TV station grew up. I grew up to some degree because I've never done that. I wanted to do it in Dallas. I wanted to do it at 6 and 13. I just wasn't allowed to do that. But I learned you can do this and people will watch, and I think people were really appreciative of that.
It's going to be an extremely uncomfortable situation if you're in your home with no lights, possibly no electricity, and for 8 to 10 hours you're feeling and hearing the wind and hearing things flying around outside. Try to prepare for that psychologically. Make sure your kids are okay, because it may not be a very pleasant experience. Even before I was in high school, I always thought to myself, I do not want a job where what I say or do can impact someone's life, because I didn't want the responsibility. It turns out most jobs that people do impact people's lives, whether you're a mechanic or a doctor, even a school teacher. It is difficult for me sitting in a studio with a half dozen other people in a green wall to realize there are hundreds of thousands of people out there. Some of them are in true fear of their lives during hurricanes and severe weather. But I do what I do, and I don't really focus on that until after the fact, when people say, oh yeah, you said. To this day, people will stop me and say, oh, I remember during Ivan, I was listening to you on the radio, because people lost electricity, and you told us how the winds would shift and how the rain would last this long and they'd pick up. You told us how we should go outside and look at the stars because we had no electricity and the city was dark, and that's the only time you could see the Milky Way. So people remember that.
I look back on those people that are in pain because of loss of life during tornadoes. And for me to have the chance to go in front of some green wall and help prevent that from happening to somebody else, it's a marvelous opportunity.
We're going to get rain on Saturday, about an inch. Doesn't look too far out of the ordinary. 7 a.m. I can honestly say I get very few complaints about my forecast, which is good. Now, I do get a lot of jokes about the weather, and I don't argue it. I know people are just having fun with me, but that tells me that they feel they know me enough to be human and not step back and be intimidated. So in that regard, it's fun.
Doing this job, it's a balancing act, and for the young people, it's hard. Twitter can be brutal. Facebook can be just brutal. Where they struggle with it, and it's an acquired skill, it's dealing with the constant negativity, but you just have to count to 10, and when the nice ones come in, you put that little folder, nice mail, hate mail, and you can look at both of them, just keep it balanced. You've got to keep it balanced. To work this diversity of weather, it's just fascinating. I could not imagine working anywhere else other than Birmingham, Alabama.